Story 1, The Honey Man. Part 1, The Knock at 3:17 p.m. The doorbell rang at 3:17 p.m. on a Friday. Amelia Hart almost didn't answer. From her sofa, she could see the small blue light of the Ring Pro camera flashing, reflected in her television's black screen. Outside, the world looked ordinary, autumn gold spilling over the Richmond cul-de-sac, trimmed hedges, children's laughter fading with the season. Ordinary was good. Ordinary was safe. But the man on her doorstep wasn't ordinary. He wore a pale yellow jacket, the kind exterminators wore, its fabric spotless, his gloves surgical white. His hair was slicked back too precisely, not a strand astray, and his smile looked installed, not earned. When she tapped the phone app to speak, his eyes flicked directly toward the lens. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Hart. Vincent Crow, Richmond Pest Solutions. We're surveying the area. Japanese beetles have been nesting in gardens nearby. May I have a moment?" His voice was perfectly even, pleasant. The kind of tone you couldn't fault, but couldn't trust either. Amelia hesitated. "I don't think I have any problem, thank you." He nodded slowly, still smiling. No problem is the perfect time to prevent one. The silence that followed stretched unnaturally long. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched the lens, as though timing her heartbeat. After 7 minutes, she counted, he finally turned and walked next door to Mr. Reggie Hawthorne's house. Reggie was 78, a retired naval officer who spent his mornings pruning roses and humming sea shanties out of tune. He was stubborn, kind, and lonely in a way old men sometimes are. From her window, Amelia watched as the stranger lifted a tiny drone from his case and sent it buzzing above Reggie's garden. Its light blinked red, scanning the hedges. Reggie laughed, clapping once like a child. A minute later, both men disappeared into the house. Then, without warning, Reggie's CCTV feed, which shared the same cloud network as hers, went black. Static. That night, Amelia dreamt of buzzing. Not the soft kind bees make in sunlight, but the furious metallic hum of trapped wings. She woke at 2:43 a.m., drenched in sweat. Her phone screen glowed on the bedside table. A single notification pulsed. Reggie's camera disconnected. By Tuesday, Reggie's lawn looked abandoned. Grass up to her knees. Mailbox stuffed and cracked. A faint, syrupy smell drifted from the property, sweet but wrong, like fruit rotting under sugar. Amelia left a note through his slot, "Reggie, checking in. Call me?" No reply. That evening, as she watered her hydrangeas, she noticed movement near her fence. Dozens, no, hundreds, of flies clung to the slats, bodies oversized, their heads red and glistening. She shivered and sprayed the hose. They barely moved. Across the street, Mrs. Pembroke was walking her spaniel. "Awful smell, isn't it?" she called. "Thought maybe the council bins again." Amelia forced a smile. "Yes. Probably that." She didn't mention the flies. 2 nights later, the buzzing returned. Louder. Closer. Amelia got up, wrapped herself in her robe, and checked the Ring app. The camera outside her door showed only darkness, then, briefly, the reflection of something moving fast past the lens. Not a person. Not quite. She increased the screen brightness. A flicker of white gloves. Then static again. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "Vincent." The app froze. When she opened her curtains, the cul-de-sac was empty, except for one thing. A small, honey-colored jar sitting neatly on her doorstep. Morning light didn't make it less strange. The jar was unlabeled, capped with wax, filled with thick golden liquid. A note was taped beneath. "For preventive treatment. Yours sincerely, Vincent Crow." She left it outside. By noon, it was gone. Thursday brought police. 2 officers in plain clothes stood at Reggie's door, talking quietly. Amelia stepped out. "Is he all right?" she asked. The younger officer looked uncomfortable. "We received a welfare call. Neighbor reports unusual smell." The older one frowned at her Ring camera. "You mentioned earlier you saw a contractor visit." "Yes. He said he was from a pest control company. Name was Vincent Crow." The officers exchanged a glance. "We'll need that footage." When she opened the app, all recordings from Friday afternoon were missing. Every clip from 3 to 4 p.m. had been erased. That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. She kept thinking of Reggie's roses, the way they bowed under invisible weight. At 2:11 a.m., her security lights triggered. She turned toward the window. In Reggie's garden, the drone was back. Its red eye blinked over the grass, sweeping slow circles. Then it faced her window, stopped, and blinked twice. Friday, exactly 1 week after the knock, Amelia made a decision. She still had Reggie's spare key. They used to water each other's plants when away. She told herself it was simple concern. She'd go in, check, call the police again. Nothing more. The moment she opened the gate, the smell hit her. Sweet. Decayed. Wet. Flies crawled over the doorknob like spilled ink. Inside, the air was humid, heavy with rot masked by sugar. The carpet squelched under her shoes. "Reggie," she called softly. No answer. The living room was almost normal, except for the black suitcase lying open on the sofa. Inside were 6 glass tubes, each containing something alive, small, pale larvae writhing against the glass. Labels printed neatly. Specimen A6, Accelerated Pupil Cycle, Crow Industries. Her stomach lurched. Then came the sound. A faint tapping from upstairs. She climbed, every step a slow protest from the old house. The smell grew stronger, thick, syrupy, suffocating. When she reached the bathroom, the door was half closed. Something pale gleamed beyond the frosted glass. "Reggie," she whispered again. She pushed. The door swung open. And the world stopped breathing. Part 2, The House That Smelled of Honey. The door creaked open with the softest sigh, like the house exhaling. Then the smell hit her full force. It wasn't rot exactly, at least not the kind she'd known. It was sweeter. Thicker. Like sugar burning in a pan, or fruit fermenting in sunlight. The scent clung to her lungs, coating her tongue with syrup and bile. The light above the mirror flickered. Once, twice, then steadied into a sickly amber glow. Reginald Hawthorne lay in the bathtub. Naked. Still. At first she thought he was submerged in milk. But it wasn't milk, it was honey, pale gold, opaque, swirling slowly as though alive. The surface shimmered with an oily film of wax. Reggie's skin had turned the color of candle wax, stretched tight, almost translucent. And all over him, arms, chest, neck, were holes. Hundreds of them. Tiny, round, rimmed in red. Some dripped clear fluid. Others pulsed faintly, as though something just beneath was moving. Amelia's mind rejected what her eyes told her. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Then she saw the flies. They covered the tiles, the sink, the ceiling, fat, red-headed things with black fur shimmering under the bathroom light. They pulsed in clusters, wings whispering. The air vibrated with them. The moment she stepped back, a low drone rippled through the swarm. A signal. They moved as one. The first wave hit her face. She screamed, swatting, but they were relentless, into her hair, her mouth, crawling across her skin. Their feet burned like static. One bit the soft flesh near her ear, she felt a sharp sting, then heat, then something burrow. She staggered, hitting the sink, knocking over a glass jar filled with thick amber sludge. It shattered, splattering across her arms. The honey smoked where it touched her skin. Panic overrode thought. She grabbed the nearest thing, a can of air freshener from the shelf, and the lighter from her pocket. Her husband had taught her that trick once, before he died, a flamethrower in miniature, Ames. Just don't try it indoors. She flicked the lighter. Pressed the nozzle. Fire leapt forward in a brief white plume. The swarm shrieked in soundless frenzy. The tiles blackened, the air filled with the stench of burning sugar and wings. Amelia stumbled backward into the hallway, coughing, eyes streaming. Behind her, the honey in the tub boiled, releasing steam that smelled faintly of almonds. She ran until she hit the front door, flung it open, and fell onto the grass outside. Her arms shook. Her robe was torn. The sound of buzzing still filled her ears, though no insects followed. Neighbors had begun to appear, faces half curious, half concerned. Someone shouted, "Is there a fire?" "Yes," she croaked. Call someone. Please." It took the fire brigade 17 minutes to arrive. By then, the flames had eaten through most of the upstairs floor. The house burned bright as a lantern, smoke rising golden in the afternoon sun. Amelia sat wrapped in a foil blanket, watching the inferno consume the last of Reg's roses. She couldn't stop shaking. A detective arrived later, a woman with severe hair and calm eyes. "Detective Inspector Lorna Vale," she said, showing her badge. "You live next door?" Amelia nodded weakly. "Can you tell me what happened?" "There was something in the house." "Flies?" "So many," her voice broke. "And Reggie? He's gone." Vale exchanged a glance with the forensic officer beside her. "We'll confirm, but it's likely he's deceased." "You said flies?" "Yes." "And honey?" Everything smelled like honey. That earned her a long look, neither disbelief nor comfort. Vale scribbled something in her notebook. "Did you see anyone enter the property before the fire?" "A man. Last week. Said he was pest control." "Vincent Crow." Vale froze for a moment, pen hovering above paper. "Say that again." "Vincent Crow. Short, blue eyes, pale, polite. He brought a drone. Checked Reg's garden." The detective exhaled slowly. "We've been looking for him for months." Amelia blinked. "What?" "Vincent Crow isn't with any pest control company," Vale said. "He's a former researcher from the London Entomological Institute. Dismissed 2 years ago for unethical trials involving genetic modification of carnivorous Diptera, flies that consume tissue. He disappeared after an internal probe." Amelia's stomach turned. "You mean he made them?" Vale nodded grimly. "He calls them the cleaners." She crouched, voice lower. "We've found 2 previous sites. Same smell, same residue. Both victims elderly, living alone. Each scene had larvae consistent with Sarcophagidae, flesh flies, but engineered to lay eggs subdermally. Fast gestation. 6 hours to larval stage. 48 hours to full consumption." Amelia covered her mouth. "Oh, God." Vale stood again, glancing toward the burning house. "We'll need to examine your property, too. Standard procedure." "Of course," Amelia whispered. "But please, get those things out of here." Night fell like smoke. By the time Amelia returned home, the street was cordoned off with yellow tape. Her house was eerily quiet. She poured herself a glass of water, hands trembling so badly she nearly dropped it. Every flicker of shadow looked like a wing. Every creak of the pipes like a low buzz. She sat on the couch, trying to breathe. Then she noticed something on her doorstep. A glass tube. Long, narrow, stoppered with wax. Inside floated a single thing, small, round, the color of pearl. An eye. Her scream echoed down the street. The next morning, Detective Vale returned with gloves and a sealed evidence bag. "Same design as before," she murmured, studying the tube. "Crow leaves them at every site. A kind of signature." Amelia watched from the sofa, pale and hollow. "Reg's eye," she whispered. Vale didn't deny it. "We'll confirm with DNA." She hesitated, then added, "You did the right thing, Mrs. Hart. Burning the house might have stopped a full outbreak." "Outbreak?" Vale sighed. "We think Crow's experimenting with symbiotic insects, ones that rely on human tissue to reproduce. He calls them adaptive cleaners. Once inside a host, they nest until they sense decay, then feed. Efficient. Predictable. He's obsessed with purity. Why me? Amelia asked quietly. Vale looked uneasy. You were next door. And you noticed him. That night, Amelia dreamed again. She was standing in Reg's garden, the air thick with honeyed fog. From the ashes, roses bloomed again, their petals glistening wetly. At their centers were not stamens but small, pulsing eggs. Vincent Crowe stood behind the fence, smiling. His teeth were too white. His pupils the color of frost. Purity is patience, he said softly. Decay is a kindness. She woke gasping, heart hammering, the echo of buzzing still in her ears. The sound didn't fade when she opened her eyes. It was real. Somewhere in the house, something was moving. She rose, every step cautious, listening. The sound led her to the kitchen. Her Ring camera light blinked, recording. On the counter sat her honey jar. The one she'd left outside a week ago. Its lid was cracked. Inside, something stirred. Tiny white larvae, thousands of them, swimming in thick golden syrup. And just beneath the glass, pressed against the inside like a fingerprint, was an image. Vincent's smiling face. Part 3, The Burning Garden. For 2 nights, Amelia Hart didn't sleep. Every shadow in the house whispered. Every hum of the refrigerator became a low, deliberate buzzing that made her skin crawl. She left the lights on, the curtains drawn, the doors locked, but the sound persisted. By the 3rd night, it wasn't just sound. It was movement. She woke at 3:17 a.m., the same time Vincent Crowe had first appeared, because something brushed her cheek. A faint tickle, soft but alive. She sat up fast. The blanket rippled. Larvae, tiny, white, translucent, slid across the sheets like slow tears. Amelia screamed and stumbled from the bed, slapping at her arms, her hair. She turned on every light in the house. The mattress shimmered faintly, its surface glistening with a thin film of golden fluid. She grabbed the air freshener and lighter again, sprayed, burned, screamed until the smoke detector wailed. The fire fizzled fast, leaving scorched fabric and the sweet, nauseating scent of honey. Then, silence. Her phone buzzed. One new notification from her Ring camera. Motion detected, front garden. She hesitated, heart thundering, then opened the app. Vincent Crowe stood at her gate. The feed was grainy, the lens fogged by rain, but his outline was unmistakable, the yellow jacket, the calm posture, the faint smile. In one hand he held a beekeeper's smoker, pale mist coiling from its spout. In the other, a jar. He raised it toward the camera, lips moving silently. Then the feed cut to static. By sunrise, Amelia's fear had evolved into something else, a pulse of raw, electric anger. She wasn't prey. Not anymore. She showered until the water ran cold, scrubbing her skin until it burned. Then she packed, flashlight, crowbar, a bottle of industrial-grade disinfectant, and her husband's old lighter. Outside, the morning fog curled low across the street. Reg's house stood silent behind police tape, its windows black hollows. She ducked under the tape and stepped through the scorched doorway. The air still smelled of caramelized death. Flies hovered near the ceiling, sluggish from smoke. Their bodies gleamed with a faint metallic sheen, as though plated with brass. Amelia's boot stuck slightly to the floor as she moved through the ruined hallway. The walls glistened with thin streaks of honey, trickling down like sap. Upstairs, the bathroom was unrecognizable. The tub had melted into warped porcelain, but the honey still bubbled faintly at its base, alive, breathing. She crouched near it, watching. Inside the congealed gold, something moved. A pale hand pressed briefly against the inner surface, leaving a dent. Reg's hand. She staggered back. Behind her, a sound, a door opening somewhere below. Mrs. Hart, a voice called softly. You shouldn't be here. Amelia froze. The voice was male. Calm. Familiar. She turned. Vincent Crowe stood at the bottom of the stairs. Up close, he looked smaller, thinner. His eyes were a pale, glacial blue that caught the light like frost. His smile was exactly as she remembered, fixed, polite, mechanical. "I had to see," she said, her voice shaking. "I had to know why." Vincent tilted his head. "Curiosity is how infection spreads. What did you do to him?" He stepped closer, the drone case hanging from his shoulder like a weapon. "Mr. Hawthorne wanted his garden purified. I simply obliged. Nature consumes, Mrs. Hart. I've only made it efficient." "Efficient?" she hissed. "You killed him." Vincent's smile didn't fade. He was already decaying. They all are. The old, the lonely, the forgotten, dead things pretending at life. My cleaners only help them finish what they've begun. He moved another step up. The air shimmered faintly around him, carrying that sickly sweet scent. "But you, Mrs. Hart, you're different. You survived the hive." Amelia's fingers tightened on the crowbar. "Stay where you are. You burned my work," he said softly. "You set fire to my children. Do you know how long it takes to breed perfection?" He opened the case. Inside were 6 tubes, each filled with writhing larvae. Their bodies glowed faintly in the dim light. "I want to show you something beautiful," he whispered. "A world cleansed of decay." Amelia lifted the crowbar. "Come closer, and I'll cleanse you." Vincent laughed, a quiet, empty sound. "Do you know why they like honey?" he asked. "Because it never rots. It never dies. Even trapped for centuries, it stays sweet." He raised one tube, holding it to the light. "I'm building something immortal." She swung. The crowbar struck the tube, shattering it. Honey splattered across his chest, across the stairs. The larvae hit the floor, twitching violently, emitting a high-pitched hiss. Vincent's composure cracked. "You fool," he snarled. The larvae began to move together, flowing like liquid, forming patterns, seeking skin. Amelia stumbled backward, grabbed the bottle of disinfectant, and hurled it. The plastic cracked open, soaking Vincent and the stairs in harsh chemical fumes. Then she flicked her lighter. Flame roared up the staircase, blue-white, devouring the honey and the man in one furious breath. Vincent screamed, not in pain, but in fury. "You can't burn purity." The fire swallowed him whole. Amelia ran. Outside, the air was sharp with rain. She collapsed on the lawn, coughing, watching the flames climb through Reg's ruined windows. For a moment, she thought it was over. Then the buzzing began again. Low? Persistent. From beneath the soil. She crawled toward the flower beds. The earth was moving, shifting as if something underneath was trying to escape. From the ashes of Reg's garden, hundreds of flies emerged, slick with honey, wings glinting red in the firelight. They rose in spirals, filling the air with a deafening drone. Amelia covered her face, screaming as they swarmed overhead. The heat from the house melted wax and honey together into molten gold, dripping down the walls like blood. Through the smoke, she saw movement, something stepping out of the flames. Vincent Crowe. Or what was left of him. His skin was blackened and blistered, his jacket half melted to his arms. But his eyes glowed bright blue, untouched. He smiled through charred lips. "Fire can't cleanse the unrotted," he rasped. "It only refines." The swarm gathered around him, forming a living shroud. Amelia stumbled backward toward her porch, gripping the lighter. "Stay away from me." Vincent tilted his head, studying her like a curious insect. "You're immune, aren't you? You burned them, and still you live. The cleaners respect resistance. They evolve through it." He lifted one hand. In his palm crawled a single fly, larger than the rest, its wings iridescent. It settled on his cheek like a lover's kiss. Every hive needs a queen. Amelia hurled the lighter. It hit him square in the chest. The explosion was instant. Fire roared through the swarm, igniting the air. The world became flame and ash and screaming wings. She turned, sprinting for her house as the blast rolled through the cul-de-sac, heat searing her back. She slammed the door, collapsed behind it, shaking uncontrollably. Outside, the night blazed orange. Then, quiet. No buzzing. No movement. Only the faint crackle of fire dying in the rain. By dawn, the neighborhood was a blackened ruin. Police cordons, news vans, drones, all circling the smoldering remains. Detective Vale found Amelia sitting on her doorstep, wrapped in a blanket again. "You're lucky to be alive," Vale said quietly. Amelia didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on something in the wet grass, a small, unbroken glass tube. Inside, a single fly drifted lazily, its wings faintly blue. Vale crouched beside her. "We'll take that." Amelia shook her head slowly. "No. He wanted me to have it. Mrs. Hart." But Amelia stood, the tube held tightly in her hand. "He said every hive needs a queen." Vale's face paled. "You need to come with me." Amelia smiled faintly, eyes distant. "Do you hear it?" "Hear what?" The buzzing had returned, soft, almost tender, rising from the ground, the air, from somewhere deep inside her. She turned toward the burned garden. The smoke curled upward, honey-colored in the light. "I think it's starting again." Epilogue. 2 weeks later, a sanitation worker clearing debris from the Richmond fire discovered a new hive inside a melted mailbox. The honey was clear and warm to the touch. Inside it, suspended perfectly still, was a human tooth. Security footage from that morning showed a woman in a long coat leaving the area before dawn, carrying a small glass jar. She paused once at the end of the street, looking back at the blackened houses. Then she smiled. And waved. Story 2, The Mirror Man. Part 1, The Resurrection Room. The hospital had been dead for 27 years. Its corridors still smelled faintly of antiseptic and wet plaster, its lights humming faintly even though the power had been cut long ago. Wind whispered through broken windows. Somewhere deep inside, a door slammed, and the sound traveled like a memory. St. Dymphna Hospital had been a place for the lost, patients with fractured minds, soldiers with invisible wounds. The war had ended, the experiments hadn't. And in the sub-basement, behind a series of sealed iron doors, Dr. Julian Narrow was about to prove that death itself could be reversed. It was 11:19 p.m. The room was lit by surgical lamps that cast long, trembling shadows on the concrete. Every surface gleamed with cold precision, stainless steel tables, cables, an EKG monitor humming though it wasn't connected to power. The body on the table, Marcus Drayton, age 35, was still. His head was shaved. His eyes were taped shut. Around his neck hung the faint bruise of the noose that had ended his life 3 hours ago. Narrow stood beside him, adjusting his gloves with mechanical calm. He was 52, tall, immaculate, his hair silver at the temples. His reflection in the observation glass was ghostly, eyes sunken but bright. "Note the time," he said. The technician, Toby Wren, a thin man with nicotine-stained fingers, scribbled in the log. 23:19 hours. Narrow nodded. "Administering compound loan, 1:14. He drew a syringe from the tray. Inside it swirled a liquid the color of frost, milky, faintly luminescent. "Derived from cordyceps mutations," he murmured. "Modified to preserve neural architecture while reanimating cellular decay. A parasite that thinks it's salvation." Toby looked uneasy. "You really think it'll work this time, sir?" Narrow didn't look up. "It will work. It has to." He found a vein and injected the compound. For a moment, nothing happened. The EKG remained a flat line. The air felt thick, pressing down on the lungs. Then, one twitch. Marcus's hand jerked. Toby flinched. "Did you see?" "Quiet," Narrow whispered. The second twitch came from the face, a slow contraction around the mouth, as though the body were trying to remember how to breathe. The lights flickered once, briefly. Stimulus reaction, Narrow said, forcing calm. Residual current. But deep down, his pulse was racing. He leaned closer to the face. Marcus Drayton, if you can hear me, you are between thresholds. You are neither gone nor whole. But I can bring you back. Toby shifted nervously. Should we call Dr. Bryce? She wanted to observe. No, Narrow snapped. She doubts. Doubt contaminates. Upstairs, Dr. Eleanor Bryce was already watching. Through the one-way mirror above the lab, her reflection looked like a ghost. The glass trembled slightly under her hand. Ellie was 29, brilliant, and chronically afraid of the dark. She told no one that. She'd joined Narrow's team hoping for mentorship, for science, for meaning. But what she'd found was obsession. She spoke quietly into the recorder. Experiment 47B. Subject, Marcus Drayton. Procedure, post-mortem neural reanimation using Lone, 114. Observers, Dr. Narrow, Technician Wren. Emotional climate, tense. Below her, the body stirred again. For the briefest moment, Marcus opened his eyes. Ellie gasped. They were pure white. Narrow didn't see it, he was bent over the monitors. The EKG was spiking erratically, reading electrical patterns that shouldn't exist. Toby backed away, muttering, Jesus Christ. Control yourself, Narrow said sharply. But Ellie couldn't look away. Marcus's head turned slightly, not toward Narrow, not toward Toby, but toward her. Toward the mirror. He stared straight at the glass. At her. Ellie's breath caught. Dr. Narrow, he is responding. Her voice echoed faintly through the intercom. Narrow glanced up. Dr. Bryce? You shouldn't be. Then he stopped. Marcus was sitting upright. The monitors went haywire. One after another, alarms screamed. The lights dimmed, then blazed. Marcus's skin had turned grey-blue, veins visible like black rivers under ice. His lips parted, releasing a wet, shuddering breath. Toby stumbled backward, tripping over the cables. His breathing. Jesus, his breathing. Vitals. Narrow demanded. Flatline. Toby shouted. He's moving but, there's nothing, no pulse, no rhythm. Marcus's head twitched sharply toward the mirror again. Ellie felt her legs freeze. The glass between them shimmered faintly, like water. She whispered, he can see me. Then Marcus spoke. The voice was cracked, like air escaping a grave. You see me. Ellie stepped back, terrified. Dr. Narrow, he's conscious. Narrow stared in awe. Consciousness without vital signs, my God, we've done it. He approached slowly, recording into his MIC, subject exhibits autonomous motor control and auditory recognition. Language capacity appears intact. Kill it, Toby hissed. For God's sake, kill it. Narrow ignored him. Marcus, he said gently, do you remember where you are? The head tilted. Below? Below where? Marcus's voice came quieter now, like wind moving through wires. Below the mirror. The lights flickered again. Ellie felt cold air brushing the back of her neck, though the observation room was sealed. She turned, and froze. Behind her reflection in the mirror stood another figure. A man. Pale. Smiling. When she spun around, the room was empty. But in the glass, the reflection remained. Her voice shook. Dr. Narrow, something's wrong with the mirror. Narrow looked up just in time to see Marcus raise one finger and press it gently against the glass between them. The mirror bulged. Not cracked, bulged, like the surface of water disturbed by a drop. Then it went still. Narrow whispered, his bridging the medium. Toby was already backing toward the door. This is insane. I'm not staying here. He ran. The sound of his boots echoed through the stairwell, fading into silence. Naro barely noticed. His eyes shone with feverish triumph. "Ellie," he said into the intercom, "you're witnessing history. Consciousness transference across reflective barrier, pure liminality." Ellie's voice trembled. "He's looking at me." "Good. Let him." "No, you don't understand, he's behind me." Naro blinked. "What?" She turned again. This time the reflection moved independently, smiling when she didn't, tilting its head. Her breath fogged the glass. "Dr. Naro." Then the reflection raised a hand and dragged one finger across its throat. The mirror cracked. The power cut instantly. Total darkness swallowed the basement. Ellie screamed. In the dark, Marcus's voice echoed, not from the table, but from everywhere. "She sees me, now I see her." The emergency lights flickered on. The table was empty. Marcus was gone. They found Toby Wren 2 hours later in the service tunnel leading to the parking lot. His throat had been slit cleanly. In his hand was a shard of mirrored glass. Ellie was the one who found him. She dropped to her knees, trembling, a reflection in the shard staring back at her. Then she saw it, etched faintly into the glass in blood. Below. When she looked up, Dr. Naro was standing at the end of the corridor, drenched in sweat. His eyes gleamed with something that wasn't triumph anymore, something darker. He spoke, Naro whispered. "He crossed through." Ellie's voice broke. "He killed Toby." "He transcended limitation," Naro said, almost reverent. "Death, matter, reflection, they are all thresholds, and he found the door." Ellie stood, shaking. "You open something you can't close." Naro smiled faintly. "Then we'll learn to live on the other side." That night, security footage captured Naro re-entering the sub-basement alone. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. The last frame showed him standing before the mirror, his reflection moving half a second too slow. He raised his hand. So did the reflection, then smiled first. Part 2, The Hollow Reflection. The next morning, St. Dymphna Hospital stood silent again. Police tape fluttered in the drizzle. Reporters never came, no one remembered this place existed. Dr. Eleanor Bryce sat in her car, staring at the cracked facade. Her hands trembled around a thermos she hadn't opened. Every mirror in the dashboard was covered with duct tape. Her reflection, she'd decided, didn't belong to her anymore. Inside the hospital, the investigation was perfunctory. 2 officers, both tired, both skeptical. They photographed the service tunnel where Toby Wren's body had been found. The mirrored shard in his hand was tagged and bagged. The coroner whispered something about ritual symbolism. Ellie said nothing. When they asked what she'd seen, she told the truth. He came back. Marcus Drayton. He spoke. He looked through the mirror. The detective, a broad-shouldered man named Dyer, glanced at his partner and wrote something down. "Right," he said. "We'll note that." She knew that look. Delusion. Trauma response. They didn't believe her. Maybe she didn't either. That night, she returned to her flat in Shoreditch. The hallway light flickered as she unlocked the door. Inside, everything felt wrong, too still, too expectant. She walked room to room, whispering to herself, "Nothing here. No one here." Then she reached the bathroom. Her reflection waited. It looked exhausted, eyes shadowed, hair tangled, but when she tilted her head, the reflection didn't follow. It lagged, half a second behind. Ellie froze. "No?" The reflection's lips moved, soundless. Then the bathroom light died. She backed away, hand groping for the switch. The moment her fingers touched it, something brushed the back of her neck, cold, smooth, deliberate. The bulb flickered back on. The mirror was empty. Her reflection was gone. She fled to the living room, turned on every light, every lamp, every screen. Reflections everywhere, TV, window, kettle, even the dark of her phone, each one warped, distorted. She grabbed a blanket, wrapped herself in it, sat on the floor, shaking. At 2:07 a.m., her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered anyway. A man's voice. Calm. Cold. Dr. Bryce. You left too soon. Her mouth went dry. Dr. Narrow. Don't come back to the hospital, he said. Not yet. Why? Because he's not in the mirrors anymore. Static hissed across the line, followed by a faint, wet sound, like breathing against glass. Ellie whispered, Where is he? He's in me, Narrow said. The call cut. She didn't sleep. By dawn, she was driving back toward the East End, toward the rotting shell of St. Dymphna. The roads were empty, wet with fog. She parked near the loading bay, slipped under the tape. The air inside was thick with mildew and something else, a faint smell of copper. The basement door was ajar. Footprints, barefoot, tracked through the dust. She followed them. The closer she came to the lab, the louder the hum grew, a deep, electrical vibration that seemed to come from behind the walls themselves. The resurrection room was colder now. The mirror stood unbroken, but the glass looked deeper, as if it opened into another corridor. And reflected there, behind her own faint outline, was Dr. Narrow. He stood inside the reflection, not in the room. His expression was serene. His movement slow, dreamlike. Julian, she whispered. The reflection smiled. Then the voice came, from behind her, from everywhere. Dr. Bryce. I told you not to come. She spun. The real Narrow stood in the corner, pale, sweat-slicked, trembling. His pupils were enormous, his veins black. You're infected, she breathed. He nodded. He needed a vessel. Flesh is easier than glass. She stepped closer, trying to keep her voice steady. We can reverse it. You said the compound was stable. He laughed softly. Stable for death, perhaps. Not for resurrection. He moved toward the mirror, his reflection a half-second out of sync. Do you know what he is, Ellie? He's not a man anymore. He's a frequency. He travels through light. Through reflection. That's impossible. Everything is impossible, he said, until it looks back at you. He raised his hand. His reflection hesitated, then smiled wider, showing too many teeth. Ellie whispered, What does he want? Narrow's voice changed, lower now, echoing two tones at once. He wants to be seen. To live through eyes that still work. The mirror pulsed, a ripple spreading across its surface like breath on glass. Narrow staggered forward, clutching his chest. His inside, his. The reflection reached out and pressed its hand flat against the inside of the mirror. Blood spread under Narrow's shirt, blooming like a flower. He gasped, collapsing to his knees. His crossing. Ellie lunged, pulling him back. His skin was cold, almost translucent, as though light were shining through him. Julian, stay with me. He looked up. His eyes had turned white. In a voice that wasn't his, he whispered, She's watching. And then the mirror shattered. Ellie shielded her face. When the glass stopped falling, the reflection was gone. The room was silent except for the hum of dying lights. Dr. Narrow lay motionless on the floor. For a long moment, she thought he was dead. Then his chest rose once, sharply. He sat up too fast, gasping, blinking like a newborn. Julian, she asked carefully. He turned toward her. His pupils were gone. I can see everything, he said softly. She backed away. You need help. He tilted his head, eyes pale and reflective now, like mirrors. You're still afraid of the dark, aren't you, Ellie? She froze. How do you know that? He smiled, the same smile Marcus Drayton had worn before he died. Because he remembers. Ellie ran. The corridors twisted around her, endless and wet, lights flickering in time with her heartbeat. Every surface reflected her face, fractured and multiplied. She burst into the stairwell and stopped dead. Every mirror she'd ever seen in her life hung there. Hundreds of them, stacked and leaning, their surfaces glinting faintly in the emergency light. Each one showed something different: a hospital corridor, a dark forest, a child's room, a man hanging from a rope. And in every single one, Marcus Drayton stared back. He smiled slowly, lips moving in unison across 100 faces. "Don't look away." Her scream echoed through the stairwell. When she woke, she was in her car again. Morning. Rain on the windshield. The duct tape on her mirrors had been peeled away. For a moment, she thought she'd dreamed everything. Then her phone buzzed. New message. No sender. It was a video, security footage from the lab. Dr. Narrow, walking out of the building at dawn. Moving slowly. Calmly. His eyes white, his reflection in the glass doors moving after him, not with him. He looked directly into the camera and said, "The body is temporary. The reflection is forever." Then he walked away. Ellie stared at the screen until it dimmed. Outside, puddles reflected the grey sky. In one of them, for just a second, she thought she saw Marcus Drayton's face, upside down, smiling faintly. She blinked, and it was gone. But when she looked in the rearview mirror, the smile was still there. Behind her. Part 3, The Glass Door. Rain fell for 3 days straight. London looked drowned, reflections everywhere, streets slick as mercury, puddles mirroring the grey sky. Every window in the city was a door, and Dr. Eleanor Bryce began to believe each one breathed. She hadn't left her flat since the video. She replayed it constantly, Dr. Narrow walking out of St. Dymphna, his reflection following half a second behind. Every time, she caught something new, how his breath misted on the glass but his reflection didn't. How his shadow bent the wrong way. It wasn't just possession anymore. Marcus Drayton hadn't returned as a ghost. He'd become a frequency. Light and death sharing the same wavelength. And Julian Narrow, brilliant, arrogant, lonely Julian, was now its antenna. By dawn of the 4th day, the news reached her. A nurse at a nearby hospice was found dead. Cause, exsanguination. But her body was untouched, drained from inside. Security cameras showed nothing but the glint of light moving across the ceiling before the feed went white. On the morgue slab, her eyes were mirror silver. Ellie knew where to go. The hospital was worse now. Floodwater covered the ground floor, turning corridors into canals. Rain leaked through the ceiling, rippling the black surface. Each ripple distorted her reflection into something not quite human. She carried a flashlight, a revolver from her father's drawer, and a small hand mirror wrapped in gauze. Every reflective surface she passed, she covered. Windows with curtains. Steel with towels. But water couldn't be hidden, and it was everywhere, listening. "Marcus," she whispered. "If you're still inside him, let him go." Her voice echoed strangely, coming back softer, almost amused. "You wanted to see what lies beyond death. Now you're standing in it." She froze. The words hadn't come from the air. They'd come from the puddle at her feet. Her reflection smiled, lips moving on their own. "It's warm here. You should step through." The puddle moved. She stumbled back, splashing water up the walls. The ripples spread, forming shapes, hands, faces, eyes blinking beneath the surface. "No," she whispered. "You're not real." The water hissed, "Neither are you." Then silence. The resurrection room waited at the bottom of the stairs. Half flooded, half lit by emergency bulbs, it looked like a cathedral built for the dead. The great mirror still stood intact, but its surface wasn't glass anymore. It rippled like liquid silver, breathing in slow, tidal motion. And in front of it, barefoot in the water, stood Dr. Julian Narrow. He was shirtless, his chest veined with black branches spreading from his heart-like roots. His eyes glowed pale and empty. "Ellie," he said softly, "you shouldn't have come." She aimed the gun. "Step away from it." He smiled. You still think this is a lab? It isn't. It's a door. The first of many. Marcus isn't in there, she said. He's using you. He's showing me, Narrow murmured. Everything we threw away. The mirror world is older than ours. Every reflection, every image, is a life rehearsed on the other side. When we die, we go where our reflections waited. You're insane. Insanity is just perspective. He stepped closer. Look. The mirror brightened, its surface clearing like a deep lake. Inside, Ellie saw dozens of people, versions of herself, floating in the silver dark. Each moved a heartbeat slower, eyes open, mouths forming the same silent words. Help me. Narrow whispered, they've been waiting for their turn to cross. She raised the gun. Then I'll close it. You can't close what you are. The lights flickered, the mirror swelled outward like a lung inhaling. Water surged up from the floor, dragging at her legs. The gun went off, one deafening shot. Glass shattered. The bullet tore through Narrow's shoulder, but he didn't bleed. He only smiled wider. He's awake. The mirror exploded outward. Silver fluid poured across the room, coating everything in reflective sheen. The walls became mirrors, the ceiling a rippling film of light. In every surface, Marcus Drayton's face appeared, white-eyed, grinning. Ellie screamed, clutching the edge of a table as the water rose to her waist. Julian. Fight him. But Narrow's body convulsed, muscles jerking. His reflection twisted behind him, pulling like a puppet master. Too late, said 100 voices in unison. His hands clamped around her throat, strong and cold. She struck him with the revolver. He didn't flinch. Behind him, in the mirrors, the other Ellies moved closer, faces pressed against the silver walls, eyes wide with pity. You have to break it, one whispered. Before it takes the light. Ellie gasped, how? Don't look. She shut her eyes and grabbed the electrical console by the wall. Her hand found a loose wire, live, humming with stored current. She ripped it free. Sparks exploded. The water lit up in blinding white. The shock flung her backward. Narrow screamed, an inhuman, layered sound as arcs of electricity laced across his body and the mirror behind him. Then came silence. The lights died. The hum stopped. When she opened her eyes, the water was black and still. The mirror stood cracked but intact. No reflection moved. Narrow's body floated face down, smoke curling from his skin. She crawled toward the door, shaking, lungs raw from the ozone. Before she left, she looked back once. In the mirror, her reflection was still standing. It smiled. Then lifted a finger to its lips. Shush. The crack sealed itself. She left the hospital before dawn, drenched, numb, barefoot. The street outside shimmered with puddles. Every window she passed caught her reflection and held it for a fraction too long. By noon, she was at the police station. They listened, nodding politely, writing little. Words like psychotic break and grief hallucination hung unspoken in the air. They let her go after an hour. When she reached home, she tore every mirror from the wall. The bathroom, the hallway, the wardrobe, gone. She smashed her phone screen, covered the windows with paper. She made tea, sat in the dark, and tried to breathe. The kettle's surface gleamed faintly. In it, something moved. Her own face, but not hers. The expression wrong. Too calm. The reflection leaned forward and whispered, perfectly clearly. You didn't close the door. The kettle shattered. That night, flood warnings spread across London. The Thames overflowed, and the city filled with water. Reporters called it the mirror storm because of the way the floodlight reflections seemed to move against the current. Rescue crews swore they saw faces under the surface, pale, silent, watching. CCTV